So hello and welcome to Keith Hern, a photographer based in Surrey, who I've asked to come on and talk to me about his journey to recovery from cancer, and he's done this twice so far. Now, Keith's won an amazing array of awards from what I can work out, including some with the Podo, the 5th Annual Photographers Masters Cup, Entrepreneur Awards, and he's been exhibiting since his work since 2004. His work is absolutely fabulous. I really do like it. So, how are you today, Keith?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for that intro. That sounds terrific.
Do you recognise yourself?
Yeah, I like the sound of me. Yeah.
You're sounding pretty good, and you are pretty good. Let's face it. Your photography is fantastic. So, and we'll let the listeners at the end. You can tell the listeners about your website all at the end, so they can come and find you and find out exactly what I'm talking about with the photography. So Keith's got some quirky facts on his website, and you know, including things like you spent your wedding night pitching a tent on an uninhabited island, you broke your leg playing golf, and then this one in particular, you once entered the 4th Annual Mullet Toss competition.
Yep.
You have to explain that before anything else, because I'm just, what is a mullet toss?
Hey, we were saying we did a couple of good friends of us around the corner came round one day and said, well, do you fancy doing a house swap for a holiday? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, oh, good, because we could have swapped your place. And I said, oh, okay, fine. We've got this place in right at the top of Florida, on the Panhandle near Alabama. In a place called Apalachicola Bay, and it's a gorgeous island, and it's absolutely beautiful, but really, really quiet. And one day, wandering along the beach, and there's all kinds of people there, and it's packed, and there's a bit of excitement. So wander along to have a look, and it is the 4th Annual Mullet Toss event. And what that is there's a bucket full of cold fish.
Oh God!
And you take turns to see how far you can chuck a mullet.
Okay.
And,
did you win?
No, we didn't. The guy that won it was the guy who won the previous year, and the bloke with us in this life. They're both journalists, so he went up to interview and said, "What's it like to be the champion tosser?" So that's what that story was all about.
Because I did notice that it wasn't one of your awards.
No.
Okay, so now Keith, my listeners are going to be really interested in your journey in regards to, you know, your healing in regard, you know, with the cancer that you've had and how you've resolved the big C, because obviously this is, you know, for me, when someone says they've had cancer, and this is how I originally met you, isn't it? About, you know, we started talking about this. When someone has cancer, it's a very, very deep picture, and it's one of the biggest restorations in health that someone can actually take on. So can you kind of explain first, you know, what type of cancer you had?
No, so in 2007 I was chatting to my wife in the kitchen, and just for no real reason, sort of touched the side of my neck. Found a minuscule little lump, and she saw me do it, and she said, what is it? I don't know. When it checked out, and it transpired that was a secondary tumour. And had I done nothing about it, I would never have seen 2008. So I went through and had an operation to begin the treatment, and that's to remove the primary tumour, which the scan had shown to be on the back of my tongue. Then I had to go and have some teeth out before I could have the real treatment. And then 2 5-day stints of 24/7 chemo, 6 weeks of daily radiotherapy, then a 6-week gap at the end, then go for the tests and one more operation. And then I got the all clear, so that was 2007.
Right.
And then all fine. You know, I'd lost 2.5 stone because I couldn't eat, taste or sleep properly for 7 weeks. And then started to build a normal life again. 2009 went to fundraising for the hospital and checked around Iceland and raised 7,000 for them. Wrote a book about it. Came out in November. And 3 weeks after, went to see my consultant to go through the 2-year scan checkup results. And he said, bad news, Keith, we've got cancer's back. It's in your chest. This time it's serious. And I said, what does that mean? He said, okay. Worst case scenario, you've got 12 to 24 months. And in any case, you've got your survival chances 10 and 40%. Well, unlike the first time, when it was just mentally so traumatic, I can't begin to explain what being diagnosed with cancer is actually like. This time, I just sat there. I was, I don't know why, but I was weirdly calm. And just thought, right, okay, two thoughts in my head. One was, I've got through this before successfully. I can do it again successfully. The other thought was, but I really don't like those odds. So I need to go and work out a survival strategy quickly. So to back up all the medical treatment I was going to go through, I went and did a load of stuff on my own. And part of that was, I don't know, I came across this guy as a result of an absolutely bizarre meeting coming out of biopsy. A bloke called Rolf Gordon, who runs the Dulwich Health Clinic. And the lady who told me about him said, he's the guy you want to go and have a look at because he lost his son, I think it was, to cancer. And he's dedicated his life to tackling the causes, not the symptoms. And as far as he's concerned, there are four, the big four that cause cancer. One is something called geopathic stress, which I've never heard about in my life. But I had the house assessed and plenty of it, so ended up getting it space cleared, which was a pretty wacky experience.
So can I just pick up on that in regards to what did he find with the geopathic stress? What did he consider was causing a problem, or potentially could be causing a problem?
Well, he reckoned that from his experience, his inquiries, a lot of cancer cases and serious illness cases came from people sleeping and working in the wrong position as defined by geopathic stress. So you're sleeping or work or sitting and work over the stress line. And his belief was that can be a major contributing factor. I've never heard of this thing. Apparently there's plenty of places in Europe where it's really well known.
Yeah, in the previous show, I actually had somebody on who was talking, who actually screens for geopathic stress and then harmonises houses against it. And part of what I do is I screen for geopathic stress because geopathic stress can cause so many problems on the body. It's incredible. So it's interesting that he's done that with you.
Oh, it was extraordinary. And then when the lady came round to clear it, she sort of said, right, come deep, and she showed me when the before and after effect. It was pretty surreal, I have to say, because it was a bit like when I was going for an exorcism. It's like daughter and my wife thought I had lost the plot, and they call them men in white coats. But no, that was one of them.
So did you fundamentally feel any difference in the house?
No.
Did you feel any difference personally?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
But, took me up when she finished and we went through the same thing as before, and it was clearly completely different. But, yeah, that's one of those things that's just never even contemplated before. So a lot of us that it was the first time round I worked with an NLP coach to try and keep positive throughout the experience, because I went straight back and saw her again when I got diagnosed. And you start to get into some areas that logically you think that's pretty weird, that's pretty left field, that's I can't get my head around that. But when you're threatened with facing a life-threatening disease in the face, your attitudes change somewhat. So that's kind of how I got into some of this alternative stuff.
Did you find you were more accepting and more open to actually experimenting and trying things? Because you referred to it as a survival strategy.
Yes. Yes, I did, because first time round, I found the NLP stuff was so helpful, and anything that goes with it. Then you start getting into all this, the left brain side of things. Mm-hmm. So yes, you get much more accepting than I was before.
How's it changed your outlook in regards to doing that sort of work? Well, how did it change the journey at that point, I suppose, for you?
How do you mean?
How did it, your perception, how did it alter with the NLP as you were going through your journey in regards to dealing with your cancer?
Oh, it was just really helpful to have some techniques to start looking at how to try and remain positive, and also I was given some self-hypnosis CDs to prepare for hospital, because the last time I'd been ill was 25 years back. I had a few days off for tonsillitis, so I didn't get ill, and then you hit like this juggernaut, and not really been to hospital very much. So I kept coming time to visit aging relatives. So when it's you going in and you're going to be chopped up, for want of a better expression, it's kind of, hey, this is fairly heavy stuff, and I found it very useful to have a self-hypnosis CD to help me get my head around it.
Okay. So you basically, let's come back to this person, Rolf, who you were seeing. I've forgotten his second name, unfortunately. But he said there was 4 aspects. So first of all, you dealt with the geopathic stress. What were the other 3 aspects?
Okay, yeah, just hold on. I've dug out the right piece of paper. Microparasites.
Oh, okay.
And the answer to that was it's something called Alitec, which is a strong garlic-based liquid that you take to help number 2.
Yeah.
The third one is something called coenzyme Q10.
Yeah.
Which is something I've never heard of. So I've been taking that daily for 3 years. 3 years in the end of this year. And the fourth one is acid alkali balance, and that was basically sorted out by a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda with water in the morning, half an hour before you eat anything.
Oh, that's
half an hour before you eat.
Yeah.
And that I was doing every day to begin with, and tailed off a bit. Now I just do it sporadically.
Yeah.
So that was, they were the big 4. And the other thing interesting is that at the same time I went to get my see a nutritionist and get tested for all kinds of stuff there, and I ended up getting a few supplements, either between other suggestions from Rolf Gordon or from the nutritionist.
Yeah.
So I do stuff like sea greens, vitamin D, calcium. Take all those each day as well. Go on.
I was going to say, so you've got quite a protocol going effectively in regards to sustaining your health now.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And at the same time, I did a lot of reading about diet and cancer, and made quite a lot of changes on that front. Everything from what you drink to what you eat, and I mean, there's the thing is with like most of these things, nobody really knows what triggers it, but everybody's got ideas as to what can cause it, and there's kind of nothing's 100% proof. So you have to go into it when, in my case, it was undiagnosed. I'm going to go and look at this. I'm going to work out what I'm going to do, and from all the food stuff I read was pretty similar. I mean, basically I suppose the top 3 or 4 avoids are, number 1 is almost invariably anything dairy. Red meats, processed red meats, top of the list, then dairy products, then red meat generally, and then anything sweet.
Yeah.
So, as somebody who's a lifetime of ham and cheese sandwiches at lunchtime. So yeah, I changed my diet around that quite a lot. So eat far less, don't do much in the way of dairy. Just a simple thing like swapping cow's milk for either rice milk or goes to a sheep milk or even oat milk. A bit of butter, because I used to eat margarine. You go and talk to a nutritionist about any of the spreads, and they just go, don't go near them, your body cannot break them down.
Yeah.
If you want to eat anything, go for organic, unsalted butter.
Yep.
So that, max up on fresh fruit and veg, oily fish. If you want to eat any meats at all, make it game. But it's also, you talk to nutritionists about actually organic food, and like most things, there's huge conspiracy theories, but it's not that easy to get genuinely organic food. So you just have to be. I think I made decisions based on what was realistic. I made changes where I could, and I don't think I'll ever be a vegetarian. But we don't eat much red meat at home at all now. A lot of always eating fish and fresh fruits, vegetables and things, but more of that. And on the drink side, I remember being in hospital first time round, and one of the doctors coming around asking about my drinking habits, and I said, "Oh yeah, I drink I don't know, 50 units of alcohol a week." And she looked at me and said, "Is that 1.5 or 5.0?" I said, "No, it's 5.0. And I sort of touched, so it was like, "Oh God, I'm going to get attention from drinking too much." And she said, "What about tea and coffee?" I said, "Oh yeah, I love coffee. Drink loads of the stuff." And so she said, "Well, that's not good, really. You need to start swapping some of that out for water and green tea." So nowadays, I drink very little coffee. I have to say I am partial to a drink, so although I don't do 50 units a week, I haven't gone teetotal and never will. But I drink a lot of water and a lot of green tea.
So you've actually changed quite radically in many respects your diet.
Yeah. But it's some of those. It's not that difficult when faced with those odds, and you're told. That all came out of the research that I did when I heard those odds and decided I need to build my own strategy for moving forward and being through it. So it wasn't hugely difficult. There are times, plenty of times, I used to eat heaps and heaps of cheese because I love it. I still do, but just don't eat so much of it now. And there's a lot to be said for in moderation rather than in excess. But yes, I have made lots of changes like that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're saying, that it because of the odds you were faced with, that actually it wasn't that difficult in the end. Whereas lots of people, if they were without that prognosis, most people would actually think, actually, do I want to change? Gosh, it's really, really difficult to make any level of change. And yet, I always say change can happen on a penny. You can turn yourself around that minute if it becomes a priority for you, because you can change your mind.
It's like for years I smoked, and probably like the vast majority of people who smoke, I did it for 20 years. I must have tried, I don't know how many times each year to stop. And tried everything from willpower to swapping to cigars to being social smoker to acupuncture to hypnotherapy to patches. And eventually, I just decided, I'm going to stop when I hit 40. And, midnight, never had another cigarette. And it was 9 years later that I got throat cancer. So you never know. But, it's been a hell of a journey.
It has indeed, doesn't it? And I think I know with a lot of my clients that often when they're struggling to give something up, it's either about kind of the ritual that they have around it or the habit. So in effect, smoking, actually giving up the cigarette itself is not the difficulty. It's the fact that they have this whole ritual of going outside with their friends every sort of 20 minutes. They have a bit of a natter, they have a cigarette, they then come back in again, or they go to the pub, they're socialising in that setting. They'll always say, I was fine until I actually went out and went to the pub, and then effectively I ended up having a cigarette again.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, our ritual used to start soon after 6 in the morning. We'd be outside the front door, strong cup of coffee and a cigarette for breakfast. That for years, because my wife smoked as well. It's just like, it's really difficult to quit. Really difficult to quit. I don't know why I just decided when I hit 40 that was the end of the year. So I think, as long as I do, if I don't, I know it's bad, everybody knows it's bad for you. And yet when you're younger you think, it won't happen to me. I'll be alright, I'm fit, I take exercise, I play sport all the time. And then you get, maybe it's, I need to get rid of this. And, you don't know. There's a very strong chance that was a major contributory factor in my throat cancer. But it's very easy to be smart after the event.
Well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and how?
How's the experience changed your outlook on life?
One of the big things it's done is you realise that you're very definitely immortal. And that affects the way you view the future. Whereas, when you're younger, you go, you've got to go for a pension, that's all right, you get that when you're 70 odd. And that's years, decades away. And even from the first time, you suddenly think, well, hang on a minute, don't put everything into planning 30 to 40 years down track. Work out what you want to do and see if you can't bring it significantly forward. Because you just don't know what's around the corner. It's got us, my wife and I now focused on, we both love to travel. And I said years ago to her, what we ought to do when we're in our mid-50s is rent the house up and go around the world for a year. And she just laughed and said, that's typically irresponsible financially in you. I said, okay, we don't think that's a very good idea. And then in 2003, I think it was, we went over to Canada for 2 or 3 weeks and hired a mobile home. And so I said, that some trip I mentioned that you thought was ludicrous, well, what if we take one of these and go from the top of Alaska to the bottom of Chile? Well, that's quite good. So we are planning to do that and because of timescales, etc., we're looking to head off on that journey around about the end of 2015. So only 3 and a bit years away. And that's one of the things that long-winded answer to your question about 20 minutes ago about how it changes your perspective on life. But that's what it does. It starts making you think, what can I do to bring what I really want to do forward?
So do you grasp opportunity now when previously you wouldn't have done?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You certainly, much more likely to say yes to something that sounds interesting, even if it perhaps is a bit more expensive than you'd like to do or should do, or you want to go away for another weekend. The answer is yes. It's not, I don't know if you can afford it. Because the answer is probably, like most of these things, there's always a reason to say no.
Yeah. So, what do you actually think out of everything you've done? So, because you've basically had both sides, haven't you, in regards to you've had allopathic medicine, you've had a normal route, and then you've done a fairly alternative route in a number of different ways. What do you actually think made the biggest impact and keeps you, sustainably healthy now?
I don't know. I think the combination of the two of them, worked together to get me through the treatment. And I think I went for my most recent check-up a couple of weeks ago, and the consultant, when he checks me up, there's a camera on a long tube he sticks up my nose, and I can feel it down the back of my neck, back of my throat, which is pretty uncomfortable, and he just looks around. Okay, so he said, I can't believe how you've recovered. It's astonishing. And it's like at the end of the cancer treatment in May 2010, I went to see him. Because I had full, frank discussions with him about alternative stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I'm a medic. If it's not proven, I'm not going to listen. But we talked about it anyway. And then at the end of the treatment, when I came back to see him, he said, basically on the lines of, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Just basically saying, sit on it. I walked in the room, and he said, you just look horribly healthy. After what we've pumped into you in the last 3 or 4 years, it's extraordinary. And he said, look, I know you're doing stuff at home. He said, don't want to know what you do in detail, but he said, whatever it is, don't stop. And I said, don't worry, I'm not about to. Because I started the other things I did as well, apart from going back to my NLP coach, was I started yoga, which I do religiously every week now. I also did my own magnetic therapy at home.
And what's the magnetic therapy you're doing?
Well, that was during the cancer treatment. Another one of the things that this guy said was magnetic therapy can be really helpful. I've got 2 sort of magnets that you plug into normal electricity, doing for about 20 minutes over the solar plexus, and also in my case over the chest area where the cancer was.
Okay.
So yeah, there's lots of different things tried.
Yeah. I actually practice. I've got pulsing magnetic beds, which I use. I use personally myself, but also with some of my clients, because they can create amazing change with people quite quickly, and the ability they improve the ability of the cell to function. So I find the magnetic work really, really interesting.
So yeah, all these things, it's like going back to your question, what do you think made the most difference? I haven't the faintest idea. But you do all these things and something in there works, whether it's a combination or whatever. And I don't suppose anybody can ever prove what precisely it is that's working, and everybody's likely to be different. But that's what I did in the second time around faced those results. I put I did my research and put a strategy together, and thankfully proved pretty successful.
What I find interesting is the doctor's kind of response to you, which I've heard before from a number of my own clients, which is that they don't want to know in detail what the client or yourself is doing, because it's outside of the medical range of what they would do. Therefore, they just kind of think it's a miracle that you're getting better. So they won't actually engage in many respects in kind of the natural health side. They just think, well, whatever you're doing, carry on with it. It's a real shame for me that they don't accept that there is a place for it.
Well, I think, the other thing, there's lots of, the other thing I read, there's lots of conspiracy theories as well. Once you deal with big pharmaceutical companies, there's massive amounts of money involved, and anything that involves non-pharmaceutical as a solution just doesn't get any traction anymore, because they've got such clout with governments, their choice for people and things like that.
It is interesting the strength the pharmaceutical companies have, and you know, they do have a monopoly on it. And, you know, your doctors are not trained in any other aspects that have a potential to actually, and I have to say potential legally, everybody, as you say, because of the Cancer Act, that actually may have an impact. So you're hearing today about Keith Hern's photographer, who's actually healed himself using both allopathic and natural remedies and therapies on his journey. And you call it in adversity? Through adversity, is it? Adversity.
The Bangs and Mashes book I wrote about it into a presentation called Adversity.
And you do this presentation. Where do you do this presentation? How do people get hold of you to do this presentation?
Get me on the website. It's you can see it. It's on YouTube.
Oh, right.
Out of university, but I do it. So I've done networking groups. I've done it at. I did it to local club. I've done it to a bunch of extreme explorers up in London, something called Adventure Tour.
Really?
Yeah, and the guy that was videoing that, he came to. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
He said you could hear a pin drop when you were talking. He said, and you deliver it well. Now, I've just set up this thing called Inspired Life. He's an extreme explorer, and he said I do motivational, inspirational talks and workshops. And would you be interested in getting involved? Because this is just the sort of thing I want. So I said, absolutely. And it's quite early stages, but it's got two markets. One is educational, so doing, and we did a day a few weeks ago at a school up in near Luton, to a bunch of GCSE lower sixth kids, and it was all about wellness, well-being, lifestyle, and a little bit about. And you've got to think a little bit further than winning the lottery or Britain's Got Talent.
Winning X Factor.
In order to and get used to taking knocks. So there's one element of it's that, and the other one is corporate motivational speaking. And we've had the first couple of events. And there's plenty more that will hopefully be coming through. But I've just been contacted by the local school who see an article in the press to say, we want to talk to you about coming in and talking. So it's kind of word of mouth and also, that kind of stuff really. Word of mouth and people getting to hear about it.
That's truly inspiring. And so, how do people find out about Inspiring Life?
It's inspiredlife.org, www.inspiredlife.org. The guy who set it up, Richard Harpham, he used to run a big business employing loads and loads of people, and chapted him to go and become an adventurer. He's done something like 28,000 miles under his own steam, which is basically either a bike or a kayak.
My God.
So he is into this big time, and it's fascinating to listen to. Because as he puts it, it's not like Bear Grylls, who's got all the TV crew and all the safety stuff just around the corner. He goes and does it, and there's him and a mate, and that's it. It's in the middle of nowhere, and if something goes wrong, you're history. So he's the guy that runs it, and he's the guy that's I've been starting to work with. So that's what that is. If you want to find out more about me, then my photographic website is www.keithhern.com. And I've got a website for all the cancer stuff, which is throatcancersurvivor.co.uk. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I write almost a weekly blog, keithhern.com/blog, /blog. But I've got to write one latest night or first thing tomorrow morning, which might be on either the killing fields or eating weird food in the Far East, as we tried snake tarantula and red tree ants and crickets.
Oh gosh! I don't think I want to know.
So those are the main points of contact.
So I believe that associations are really important, and who you make associations with is what I'm referring to. So, and being a part of that project must be now actually almost enabling you to kind of continue to be inspired, because if you're inspiring others and you're surrounded by inspiring people like Richard, who does sound, I have to say, amazing, is that helping you to raise your game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really appreciate this is all new. This areas I've never been involved in before. I mean, if somebody had told me 5 years ago, oh, you'll be an author and you'll go and do speaking events paid for, I'd have just laughed. It's the two things I've never even dreamt of. But it's funny how things change when you're. That's all down to the cancer and what happens as a result of it. So life is completely different now to what it was in those bygone days of being in corporate.
And your book, is that the one called Bangers and Mash?
Yeah. It's called that because most people go, well, if it's about cancer, why is it called that? Well, it's because that's the first mouthful of solid food I've tried after not being able to eat for 7 weeks because of radiotherapy effects.
Interesting. Bangers and Mash, is that what they fed you?
Well, I had a local photo exhibition, and we just took friends up and set it up. I said, look, I'll take you down to the pub for lunch. So I'll just have a mineral water and soup, which is my stable diet then. But they had all this sort of stuff, and I just said, no, I want to try something. A mouthful of that. And it was the first time I actually wanted to try food for 7 weeks. So that was the point when I knew I was on the mend. And it was quite an amazing feeling. I came home and was really excited to my wife and thought, here, guess what? I've had a few mouthfuls of Bangers and Mash. And it's a big thing.
Yeah.
After that, it's a real turning point. And as soon as you know you're actually on the mend, your spirits and everything pick up really quickly. Little things, a lot.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you actually are faced with something and the odds that you were faced with, how it is those small things in life that suddenly become extremely important and can become so much bigger for you. And the simplicity of life as well, I feel. Oh,
yeah. And I found one thing that went through the whole experience, particularly the first time. The second time is very different, which is why I'm writing another book about it, because you know what's coming, you know when it's not going to be much fun, and when you're going to feel utterly grim.
Yeah.
The first time, an awful lot happens that I found very humbling. Is the best way of describing it. And the people that you meet in hospital and things like that, and things that happen, like not being there before, that hopefully won't have to go there again. But all that aspect of it, which is just completely new.
From this journey that you've taken, what would be 3 key pieces of advice you've really learned and taken on board in regards to living your life now?
Okay, so I would say, it's summed up in 3 words: health, belief, and life. Health, I mean, the biggest thing about it is, particularly blokes out there, the biggest thing about why male cancer survival is so much lower than female in the UK is a bloke's typical response is, just a lump, it'll go, I'll leave it, instead of going to get it checked out and talking about it like you ladies would. If I wouldn't have done that, I would say I'd have been dead in 2007. So lesson 1, if in doubt, get it checked out. 99% of the time it's going to be nothing, but if it's something, it doesn't matter what the cancer is. If you find it early, the chances of survival are massively bigger. And the other thing, and then basically belief. And in my case, it was more about the book, because nobody was interested in publishing it. So, well, not another cancer book. What have you written before? Well, I haven't. What are you famous for? Well, I'm not. No, there's no market for it. Excuse me. Medically, something above 20% of the population going to get cancer. Okay, that's a big market. I'll go and find some way of doing it myself. And so, in other words, kind of there's a way. And the biggest one is probably just, life. We all think about it as 70-ish plus, now 80-ish perhaps. Don't wait. Get on and do what you want to do, because you don't know what's around the corner. And those are the three big lessons.
I think it's really interesting what you're saying about belief. Part of the work that I do with my clients who are often very chronically ill is I work on mindset. So when you were saying about the NLP previously, it is part of what I actually do, because I believe that mindset can change people's health very, very quickly, and the perception of it. And and I actually think that, health is about 80% in the mind. And if you can really influence that and change someone's beliefs to actually realise that they have the ability to heal themselves, and they have the ability to take life by the horns and get on with it, which is your third point, and actually to take the opportunity and live it, and that they can live it and enjoy it in the way that they really want to. I think it can truly turn health around.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I remember being relayed a story from, some friend or contact I've spoken to about it, who told me, I told them about those odds. He went off to talk to somebody else about long contact. So, I know this guy that's just been diagnosed with 10 to 40% chance of survival. Whoever it was he was talking to was just said, well, what's he like as a person? It's quite sort of upbeat and positive. And he said, right, 50% of it is in the mind. So your mate on 10 to 40% is between 60 and 90%, and he'll be fine.
Huh. Amazing.
Interesting. So it's there's a lot of work on that. What's it called? Is it the placebo effect?
Yep. Yeah.
Take this and it'll be better. Somebody says it and you take it, you are better. You could have been given sugar.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, sure.
Yeah, there was a piece of research done a number of years ago now, and a knee surgeon split his patients for a period of time in half, and he did surgery on them all, but only half of them he actually did the knee surgery, and the other half he basically just did an incision and restitched it back up again, and they all improved.
Interesting, eh? The power of the mind.
Well, this is it. And then when they followed up and said to the people who hadn't had the surgery that some of them hadn't, some of them actually started to get the symptoms as soon as they found out that they hadn't had the surgery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So the mind plays mighty funny games.
It does indeed. So
I remember really well, the really first 3 days or so after first diagnosis in 2007, just how mentally traumatic it is. And the second night, I woke up in the middle of the night, like a kid has a night and wakes up sweating. I did that, and I've been dreaming. I dreamt I was at my own wake. Those are the sort of games that diagnosis basically have. It's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah. Gosh. So you hear it here, everybody. Grab life by the horns and believe that, that you can be healthy and heal yourself.
Got one life. Live it.
Live it. Exactly. You're absolutely right, Keith. Now, you were telling me before we started about this fundraising activity that you've been doing, and today you managed to right. And this is a networking that you raised it at, is that right, at 4N?
Yeah, I've had two big fundraising events in the last days. Last Saturday, I ran a quiz night locally in Thames Inn, and we raised about £820 than that. And then this morning we did a business auction at Tour Networking in Reigate, and about 30 businesses contributed items that could be auctioned off with all the proceeds to go to the Royal Marsden Hospital, and we raised over £3,500.
This is incredible, really.
So my full Just Giving, which is where it's all payments through to justgiving.com/Keith-Hern. So I'm doing it, and as a result of those last 5 days, there's now enough there that I can go. Whereas in 2009 I went trekking in Iceland, I'm now going to Nepal in October. So, and there's another few months of fundraising left, and my aim is to beat 7,000 I raised in 2009.
This has been lovely talking to you, Keith. It's been an inspiring story of you resolving your cancer twice, and now you live in a very different and highly inspiring life and motivating to someone like myself. And do you just want to give your website a plug and how people get in contact with you?
Yeah, it's the website is www.keithhern.com. That's KEITHERN. You can email me, keith@keithhern.com. You can find me on social media, Twitter is just Keith Hern, or find me on Facebook and send me the invite or whatever. I've also got Facebook business pages. One is Keith Hern Photography, and one is Surviving Throat Cancer. Anything about the cancer stuff is throatcancersurvivor.co.uk. That's about it. There's a couple of websites. There's a blog, keithhern.com/blog. Yeah, that's it.
And
there's a few ideas.
And he does presentations as well, everybody.
Joannie, Graff. And my understanding is that you're a colon therapist, you were saying.
Yes, I've just really just trained. I was a hairdresser, and since my own health issues have cropped up, I used colon hydrotherapy a lot and found it very beneficial. I just studied colon hydrotherapy.
Okay.
And I'm also decided that nutrition was also a good thing to get a kind of certificate of some ability. So I've done a diet and nutrition course and that kind of thing as well.
Right. Well, I've invited you here with me today to do this interview because you've actually resolved cancer through a variety of different means, which was really interesting when we actually had our initial chat. So my whole focus is that cancer can actually be resolved in many people when they get it, and lots of people are resolving it, but we don't really hear about this. And we just hear the bad news about cancer, about 1 in 8 women getting it now, the increase continuously. I think rates have doubled since 1970s. Since 2008, I think it's doubled. Well, it's gone up by 3.5% of the official stats. But I'm really interested in people like yourself who have healed themselves, and through not just the medical route. So you have used a number of different routes. And so you found a lump in your breast, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
It must have been a bit of a shock, really.
Yes, that's right. It was a bit of anyone. I actually had it for a month before I did anything about it. So I think probably a lot of people maybe are similar. I didn't go screaming off to the doctor. I just said, oh, that seems a bit strange, and left it. And then it actually went down, and then on my next menstrual cycle, it was there again, and decided to have it checked.
Right. Okay. It's actually the biggest form of cancer that women tend to get, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you went off seeking answers.
Definitely.
And
absolutely.
you had the allopathic. You went the allopathic route, didn't you?
Yeah. I sort of decided to get the checks. I mean, loads of people, of course, you've got family, friends, and going. I was in a job, and particularly some quite forthright people will say, you're getting down there to the hospital, and they know that I was already quite alternative, so I would use a lot of homeopathy for many things, and and diet for many things, but they said, they were sort of quite harsh with me to say that that's what I needed to do, and it wasn't only that, I just thought that yes, let's see what's going on, but I sort of found such an overwhelming level of negativity and disempowerment from what I was hearing and the way they treated me, really, that I just knew that my energy was just really low whenever I went there. So hence I thought, well, I need to look elsewhere, and I'm quite a rebellious sort of person.
You need to be.
I think you do. You need to know to say no. You need to know how to say no. And how to really see what the energy with people, the energy with certain systems is, how they're coming across, because they just said you can't change anything with diet. And I thought, well, I went to a Philip Day conference, and he said in the conference, which just went, stood out like miles, and said, we use food to keep alive. How on earth can we not use food to help improve when we don't get, when we're not well? Surely we can use better food, or look at the food we're eating to improve our health in lots of ways. It's just they would just poo-poo it and say, no, definitely you can't change anything through diet. And
astonishing statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not to them, obviously.
No, it is interesting, because I do have somebody in my own family who's never been told that diet would actually alter their symptoms, and they have had a big cancer picture, and it continues to amaze me.
Absolutely.
So you knew that your body could repair itself.
Yeah, I have a very strong belief. I have a love of myself. There's a sort of love of your own body, and you're sort of looking at each cell, and you're just encouraging it. You're positive towards the energy that your cells are trying their hardest to do their best for you. And I could see where things had gone wrong emotionally with me, that was just sort of sending me off kilter. And I've done huge research onto all sorts of areas, and German new medicine, I don't know if you know about that, or all sorts of other areas. Of course, I went to Italy. I've done many radical therapies, injecting my lump with sodium bicarbonate, and this particular doctor was struck off, when it was too radical, and the Italian the Italian medical people would just, he ended up getting struck off. So I've had that treatment, and of course, before I had the lump removed, I had Galvano, because the lump was about 5 centimetres by the time I decided to have it removed. It hadn't grown hugely. It had, but the treatment with the sodium bicarbonate swelled the lump quite a bit, and which is a positive thing, because any swelling of inflammation is the body trying to fight, fight back. And so I had that therapy. Then I went to Germany again to a clinic and had something called Galvano therapy, which means that you're sending an electrical charge through the lump from one side to the other, and the charge travels through. That also causes a lot of inflammation, a lot of swelling, and brings the whole area to swollen. And what I understand from it, because I don't absorb the technical stuff hugely, because there's a lot of it, but I obviously try my best to work out what's going on. But just causes the swelling, and then all the body's forces inside are sort of fighting off the cancer, and causing a kind of a big barrier around the actual lump. Which I was being encouraged to understand that would make it easier once I decided to have the lump removed, and therefore not need any radio or chemotherapy. That was the understanding. I mean, from my scanty, because I was obviously in a foreign country and don't speak German, and although they were doing their best to speak English, you got the feeling that you were missing things occasionally, and I had other people there that were translating for me and things. So it was they were absolutely lovely people, and energy, that's my big thing. Energy, the energy was just really dynamic, and such amazing people. So that was great.
So energy really, that side of things seems to really resonate with you.
It does, yeah, energy.
And how's that followed through with everything you do then?
Well, I mean, just as a Buddhist, you're generating energy, isn't it? You're vibrating through my chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You're causing a sound and vibration that travels through everything, because sound just travels through everything. And so those vibrations are what vibrates every cell in your body and creates energy within each cell and helps your body find balance. So I've looked at the law of attraction and Esther Hicks things which I absolutely love and in fact helped me understand a bit more about Buddhism than I had already understood, and the way you can bring about the sort of understanding that your whole body working hard towards supporting your life, and just how your brain, because the reason I think I got this was because I hadn't overcome a lot of Catholic stuff despite being a Buddhist for many years. I've been brought up in a convent boarding school. Both mother and father were Catholic, so it was from a big Catholic family. Not we were English. My mother's Latin American, so it sort of had that Brazilian feel, energy, and so but it's hard to get rid of those negative guilt sort of feelings that you perhaps aren't aren't worthy, and I certainly felt very momentarily that I had been given a sort of punishment after I got the cancer, and I'm being punished, and it was a very fleeting thing. I don't know quite where it came from, but it did definitely descend on me, this I'm being punished. And then I just went, oh no, that's completely wrong. That's completely wrong. So I think the things that I would say in a nutshell about how it's the road I went down was, first of all, recognizing that your body has this power inside it. The other thing also is the emotional stuff that goes on in your life, and I was in a marriage that I had not felt comfortable in for many, many years, but because I'm a good person, a supportive person, and I love my children passionately, I didn't want to hurt them in any way, or my partner. And so I put myself definitely at the bottom of the line. And so I feel I have put myself not at the top of the list, but still I'm managing to do it harmoniously, with everyone's well-being at heart. Those are the things. The thing that Philip Day said, which was just amazing. Also, he was an amazing light for me. It just, the first thing of, yes, your body can heal itself, and secondly was that really you need to stay in the marriage and sort it out, or you need to get out of it. And it was like I'd been having a counselling with my ex-husband, my now ex-husband, over and over, and nothing had hit me as clearly as you either stay in it and sort it out, or you get out, because it's just not going to make you well, And of course, it's the way you live. It's your home. It's your home base. If you can't find sanctuary where you live, then where can you? And so that's what I did.
Gosh. So Philip Day was almost a catalyst in many respects.
He was. I haven't seen him recently, but those influences. I had many chats. He's so amazing, and just he has this phone chats that he will do in the middle of the day. I think between 12 and 1, but it may have all changed. It was literally 2 years ago, and he will have literally 1-to-1 on the phone with anybody who rings. It's sometimes hard to get hold of him, but because he is incredibly busy. Yeah. But that's what happened. So I had long chats with him, and he made it very clear, and I because you're very afraid of cancer, aren't you? The fear factor is not a good force, and I had to really decide to fight that worry. And I have lots of friends who have died of cancer, and friends who still have, and I'm of course meeting lots of people because I encourage people with the way of things have changed for me, and they have they've really benefited from the things I've put across to them about it and the health things. So yeah, I mean, I really feel that one of the other most important things was the tapping of the emotional freedom therapy that I did, and I'm very fortunate to have a sister who can dowse, which I don't know if people listening will understand what dowsing is, but you basically, your body has an ability to give you answers to what it needs, and questions to what's going on inside you. They can be emotional questions, or they can be questions about whether you are really lacking in, say, vitamin C or any vitamin. So you say it takes a little bit to establish your own system of answering yes or no, but my sister was able to get some answers from me. I'm not able to do it yet, so I'm hoping to do a course in Psych K, which is yet another interesting thing, which Debbie knows lots about.
I was talking with Dean Grimshaw when about 2 shows ago about Psych K. The audience are relatively familiar with it. Yeah.
Good. So I mean, the Psych K I'm really looking forward to, because the dowsing thing, which I feel I can't do and get clear answers. What I was saying earlier was that I end up feeling that I'm putting my own judgment on the decision, on the yes or the no, and that's quite a strong force for me. I can't seem to feel that I'm not influencing the yes or the no from my body. So hopefully I can change that and really be able to do it more naturally with this Psych K course that I'm hoping to go on. So that's coming up in August.
So it's really going to build on that understanding that your body can heal itself, because now the body can give you the messages as well and speak to you to take you forward.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it already does through my sister. So I keep ringing her. I call her the Oracle, and I just say, "Tell me what's going on. I've just got this and I got that." So the lovely thing about the German New Medicine,
expand on that.
Expand a bit. Yes, it's just that we are animals, and the emotions that we get exposed to, be they childhood or whatever age, the emotions affect a different area of our bodies. And for instance, your lungs can give you what is called a trauma, that is a fear of death trauma. You can have these traumas. I used to have lots of them in my marriage, where my guts would always be rumbling. So there's the large intestine, the small intestine, and each of those has an emotional upset when you, say, have an argument where you get, it's called an ugly indigestible anger conflict in one or other, or large or small intestine. So each area has an emotional response, an emotional connection to each organ. And so my sister would dowse and say, is Joan having an emotional reaction to her last discussion with her ex-husband, or her child, her 17-year-old son, or something? And she'd either get a yes or a no. And then I'd be able to do the tapping and saying, yes, even though I have an ugly indigestible anger conflict in my large intestine, my brain and my psyche, because your brain and your psyche are both involved in these emotional upsets, I still deeply love and accept myself. I'm letting go of all of these things.
So at that point, what you're doing is EFT.
I'm doing EFT.
So you're mixing the two together.
Yes, I'm repeating that particular phrase, and tapping on the different areas around my body, which are sort of like 8 points or so around the body that you tap on. And I have found it like night and day, particularly when you're feeling depressed. When you just feel, and nobody wants to feel like that, but depression is obviously a difficult thing when you're trying to get over illness. You don't want to, the way your mental state is, it's really important to keep on top of those things. So I did my fair share of tapping about being depressed at times about things. So it's been a long journey to get over this lot. But it's been great, and I am a very positive person.
So the German New Medicine, many people, well, some of the people in the audience will not have heard about that at all.
No.
So who's that come from? Who's actually developed that? Do you know?
Yes, I do. Well, again, another radical man. He didn't turn out to be radical. He turned out to be completely the opposite to radical. He was a long-standing German oncologist, lived and respected in Germany for many, many years. Then he decided, for whatever reason, I don't understand the true end of the story, but he probably had his time in Germany and wanted to move to warmer climates and decided to take his family to Italy. Yeah. So they went there, and for some unknown reason, his name's Reich Geert Hammer, a rather unusual German name. But anyway, so he goes off to Italy with his family, and they're all, I don't know, he must have been 50s or something, took his 2 boys, and one of his sons got shot in a shooting accident, it was like a really freak accident, and anyway, he didn't die initially, but ultimately did, and then Mr. Reich Geert Hammer ended up getting testicular cancer, and as a scientist, he must have said to himself, what on earth is going on here? Obviously, he was in grief for the death of his son. And he started, because as a scientist, he would start thinking, why is this happening? And he recognised that in the animal kingdom, an animal, say for instance a wolf, a fox, or whatever, would lose if a wolf or a fox lost its offspring, it would then presumably may well have some period of grieving, but then it would basically look for its mate again, and then reproduce. That yes, it was being a female, but he was obviously a male. So the psyche of an animal is obviously completely different, and humans are a lot more complex. Because he was say in his 50s, and probably his wife was also similar age. She's not going to want to have another child at that stage. So he recognised that it was through not being able to use the sperm to have another child that this area got clogged, and it would then, and then cells began to develop in that area where he was not able to release the emotional side of what was going on with this. Anyway, so he studied hugely into this and looked at every other possibility around the world, or around in his sphere of friends and people that he knew that weren't well, and found out that cancer was similar, that everyone would have some sort of emotional connection to what was going on inside their body, and that the connection was through, caused an emotional reaction, and that the cancer would go there. And I'm sure genetically, or in our DNA, we also have a propensity to the cancer going to a weaker organ than another organ possibly. But he then recognised that and did loads of study on it, and actually submitted his findings after many, many years or months, I don't know quite how long, but of his findings. And I suppose because his findings were so amazing that he was told by the German authorities, the medical authorities, that if he published any of it, he would be struck off. And if he was, because he couldn't hold back on it, and so they struck him off, having been in the medical profession for years as a bona fide oncologist. And then so then he was helping people without payment, using German new medicine to help people, and he was then accused of helping people when he had been as a doctor, or when he had been practicing without a license, and then he got imprisoned for that as well.
Gosh. Yeah. It's really interesting about you holding on to illness in parts of the body. As a naturopath, I always take a very long case history and understand, different points when traumas and stress has happened, and often my clients don't understand why I want to go all the way back to childhood and understand these things, and it's because I can normally track when things have happened, and then when it's starting to trigger their illnesses, and you can nearly always see that things go to the lungs if someone's had grief and things like this, or they've got injuries in specific parts of their body. I had somebody a long time ago, and he came with a shoulder injury, and he'd come off his bike and he'd done something else, and I did some work not on the actual shoulder, but on the actual incident, and the pain went. And it's absolutely fascinating, that aspect of health, which people don't, think about. But it comes back to what you were talking about with the whole energy that you were talking, and how important energy is. Because effectively, it's a resonance, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And then all sort of gets blocked, and I think energy in life generally now in this society is hugely blocked, and I see a great deal of that around me. Funnily, yes, people who are very enlightened in some respects suddenly have these strange outbursts. I just, and everyone's going through a kind of what I would call a human revolution. Like, as a Buddhist, that's one of the things that we talk a lot about, is where you need to go through the suffering and the difficulties that you've come into life with, and work them out, and not be afraid to look at them. I've got 2 teenage boys, and it's like, I'm not looking at that. You expect me to deal with emotional difficulties, but one day they will probably need to, and that will be very beneficial for them, I'm sure, but it's the last thing on their minds.
So you talked about building blocks for change and finding the right help. So just so that the audience, if they're in the same position that essentially you are, just go through some of this sort of how you created this change and the building blocks for change, and the mindset behind that, because mindset is so important.
Yeah, it is. Lots of very good friends in a way is also hugely important. I had a good support network of friends who are very into alternative health, but they also were sort of worried and thinking, because this was a bit of a risk, and I would say, I'm feeling a bit tired, and they say, God, are you really sure you're okay? So even those people that have studied into the alternative world will also be pushing you towards, don't you think you should have the lump removed, and don't you think you should look at and see what the doctors are saying, and I just got to the feeling where I really wanted to be anywhere but an oncologist. I just felt that they in a way don't have the answers. They are grappling around in the dark, and they really don't, to my mind, have the answers, which I don't wish to discourage anybody listening, because you can do it with both feet in both camps, but at the same time you need to be careful of what they're saying to you and the energy that they put across, because you must find a way of trusting yourself. You can't do it. You've got to start being able to know, this is my life and I know what is right for my life. I've had people screaming at me because I was, you're never going to see your grandchildren, and you've got to be able to cut yourself off from people that want to freak you out or just panic, and it's their panic, it's not your panic. So in terms of building blocks, yes, I think putting people around you, the right sort of people around you. I went for vitamin C infusions initially, and I didn't know that I was actually that ill, and I remember moving out of my marital home and moving in to a flat, and when I moved in, I just sensed the energy. My energy was so low, and moving boxes into a place, you can move in slowly. So it's one box here, a couple of boxes there, and climbing the stairs and all that. And I really didn't. I was exhausted, and so I hadn't thought that I was that bad. And then that experience really showed me that I didn't have much actual physical energy. And when I moved out, I was skipping down the stairs, which obviously. When you move out, you've got to move everything at once, because I was moving in from one place, I could take my time. I was moving out, and they wanted people in the next sort of day. So so the vitamin C infusions was probably a great benefit, because I'd had that over that time.
So where did you go and get vitamin C infusions? Because obviously you can't just have that from general practitioners. You can't.
I found somewhere. There was a clinic. I went investigated a couple of clinics, but the second one was unbelievably on my doorstep. Really, instead of a long hour drive, I ended up, and people actually come to this clinic from the Midlands, so they are quite rare. The other thing was the diet that I did, which is also incredibly important to talk about, is the Patricia Kane protocol. And do
you want to expand on that?
Yes, they won't. No, they won't. It's really, as a naturopath, you will find it hugely radical, and I'll just lay it on you because it's difficult. Doing a nutrition course, of course, everyone wants to talk about the Gerson therapy, which is all into pulses and grains and eating raw and eating lots of veg all the time, very limited meat, very limited fish and cheeses and all that sort of thing. But really, it's quite hard to talk about because it is so radical. But my nutritionist found that this lady called Patricia Kane, anyway, deals with epileptic children in America. And she was studying specifically for that, not to do with cancer. And as you can imagine, epilepsy is a big problem, in any age group, but children must be very frightening to watch it, never mind be an epileptic. So what is going on in the brain? And when it's freaking out and fitting like it does. And so she must have done all her research with this impetus to find out. Anyway, ultimately she said it's toxins in the brain, heavy metals.
Yep.
And heavy metals are incredibly hard to get out of wherever they've decided to reside. Dislodge them. And so this is my sort of scant understanding, but obviously I've been around this for 2 or so years, so I've hopefully got it right. The brain is the area where most of them will reside because it's a big fatty area. The brain is made up of a thing called arachidonic acid. And so what you need to do is starve these cells of sugar, because they will hold on to the toxins in the cells. And so what you need to do is, well, this is what I did, or this is what the diet purports to doing when you actually follow this diet, is you're starving the cells of sugar, which causes them to let go of the toxins.
Okay. Go on.
It causes them to let go of the toxins.
So how are you starving them of sugar?
Well, you're starving them through your diet.
So what are you doing with the diet specifically?
The diet is that even down to eating beetroot and carrots, you can't have any sugars.
So it's
no sugar in anything.
Okay, so no carbohydrates.
No carbohydrates.
Interesting. So
zero,
it's just fats and protein.
Fat and protein. So the only fats that I'm allowed is butter,
right,
cream cheese, and thick cream. Not thin cream, because there is too much sugar in thin cream.
Interesting.
So of course, and berries. I'm not allowed fruit because the fruit is full of sugar, and the only fruit that I'm allowed is berries. So blueberry, red currants, that kind of thing, and I can have strawberries and blackberries and raspberries. So in terms of any treats, but that's quite nice. A few bits of strawberries and cream is not a bad thing to have, compared to the hard work that people who follow the Gerson have to go through. It's quite unrewarding, and you need something to feel good about in life. So, but I can make cakes because there's flours made out of coconut flour. You can have almond flour. Obviously butter. I can have eggs till the cows come home, or the chickens come home. So really, this has been the basis of my diet.
So how did they test for the heavy metals in the first place? From the Osira?
From the Osira machine.
Okay, and how have you tracked the reduction of them?
Well, through testing with the Osira, had several tests. And my initial test with the mercury in my system was really high. My actual it showed that I was very, very weak to that, near 1 and 2, down at that level. So all the different heavy metals, the aluminium, the cadmium was, but the mercury was the highest, and I'd actually had my mercury removed some time before, and I'd had it done totally correctly with all of the right equipment, but it just showed that it was still, loads had got released somehow through whatever ways and means, and so therefore I hadn't done everything I've needed. And I think that the other thing that's also very important in this is that you need something to mop up, is what they call it, mop up the toxins. And by doing lots of coffee enemas, I've kept my liver clean, because the liver will start to struggle with all of the toxins that are coming from the brain. So you're putting in good fats, obviously 4-to-1 omega-3 and 6, which is very sort of strong on Patricia Kane's list of important things to be doing, is having the right oils. Obviously as much organic as you can. Juicing, I did very regular juicing.
So what sort of things are you juicing?
Really only green things. I'm not juicing any beetroots and things, but anything green really. Lemon juice, I put in a bit of garlic as well, or ginger and things like that. So
you're looking very well on it.
Thank you.
I have to say.
Thank you.
And it's really interesting how they're pushing the fats, the toxicity out of the fat cells, because of course that's predominantly where toxicity is going to lodge itself. Yeah. And it's always interesting to find another protocol, which I've not heard about myself. So, and I do have people with heavy metal issues.
Yes.
And I tend to push more fats in, but tend to keep them on the normal diet.
Yes.
But on a plant-based diet, it tends to be an anti-inflammatory type diet. So I never reduce the carbs right out. But that's an interest. I will definitely be looking more at Patricia Kane's protocol now. Now, you talked about the fact that you felt that you had to go it alone in many respects, and I do feel that people like yourself who choose to move outside of the allopathic model, that whole fear factor that people tend to kind of carry means that everyone else is quite frightened for you. So moving ahead of the sort of field of the herd does mean that you are alone. How did you actually manage that for yourself? Because that does take a strong mindset to do, and I can see that you're a strong woman. So tell me about really where you got yourself to actually enable yourself to move forward in that way.
Well, I'd been a Buddhist for many years. I suppose I just got a very robust, not taking any nonsense kind of attitude as a person. I mean, I'm a very earthy person, and so I just couldn't. It was my life, I just felt it was too important, and I had to put myself first. And there are some terribly difficult stories that people have as their complications of their emotional life and partners and stuff. One girlfriend's partner decided he was leaving her because she'd never satisfied him, and he had turned gay. I mean, she then had cancer, and he left her totally with the 2 children to fight the cancer, try and survive financially, and deal with what he left her, which was a dump. He dumped on her. You've kind of never satisfied me, and I've turned gay because of it. It's just like, what?
That's like something out of Jerry Springer.
Yes, no, exactly. No, you hear that thing on Jerry Springer all the time. So no, it's not unusual at all. But oh my gosh, I just couldn't. Different people have such huge complications in life, and it's amazing. But yes, I just being strong and never. It's difficult not to sort of decide to hit back if somebody wants to be aggressive, like a member of my family who was quite full on about me taking. How do you know? These people have studied for 7 or 9 years to know how to change cancer, and you think you can do it on your own without any of that? I had to be confronted with that kind of attitude, and you'll never see your grandchildren as well, which was just somebody confronting me straight off, sort of thing. So, and that wasn't once or twice they came at me. You'll never see your grandchildren. You'll never see your grandchildren. It's just so.
There's a lot of fear on their side, isn't there?
Yes.
It's interesting nowadays because we feel that we have to go to specialists to be told what to do and how to do it, even for the most basic things. Even for someone like myself, and I'm not negating what I do, but someone like myself who tells someone how to do nutrition, actually that means that someone's intuition has truly been lost. But actually you, right from the start of this interview, we've talked about the fact that you had an inherent understanding that you could heal your body. It didn't take anybody else to do it. You didn't really need the advice of other people. You knew what would be right.
Yeah. I think it also is a very mother instinct, a nurturing instinct that mothers have of what is right for their children. You just sort of get told maybe, and it sends you into a sort of spiral of oh gosh, perhaps like this, perhaps I should do that, and then ultimately you have to say, this is my child, and I'm surely the only person that really knows. I've seen some lovely programs. There was that gorgeous program about the maternity, about these women that were having midwives back in whatever 50, 100 years ago or so, 80 years ago, and one lady was told, you have to go to hospital because you'll die, or the child has to go to hospital because you'll die, and they said, I am the child's hospital.
Interesting.
A newborn baby. She was a lovely Latin character in this program. I am the child's hospital. And that's it. You are your own hospital. I mean, obviously you need to take advice, but you need to take counsel, but you need to weigh up that counsel and not, say, well, I mean, there are so many people that just want to say, cure me. Yeah. I'll do anything you tell me to do, cure me.
You take responsibility.
And responsibility in life, in every area, is what's matters. What I put in my mouth is really important to how I exist, and what I expose myself to, be it a film, shocking horror, horror. People want to watch horror, want as much gore as they can possibly absorb, and it all affects you. Just being at one with nature. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger or anything like that.
You have to be.
I don't have to be, but it may sound like I'm a tree hugger, and I'm not. I watch a limited amount of television. It doesn't satisfy me, because by the end of 2 or 3 hours watching television, I know how drained I feel. How like my own centre has been dispersed off somewhere, and I have to find that again. And so I know how to do that.
The point that you made about that you are your own counsel, I just think is so important, and that we are just giving that responsibility with that power away, and we are disempowering ourselves continuously. And you are obviously massively empowered. And have you found that this process has taken you through a level of further empowerment? Because I can't imagine that you weren't empowered in the first place after now meeting you, Joannie.
Yeah, well, I probably was empowered, but not obviously to the extent where I knew that I needed to be out of my marriage, or what career to take. No, I don't think I was empowered. I wasn't, I wanted to be, but I was a hairdresser, and I had a struggle with it big time. I struggled with feeling good enough, and I trained here in Guildford, because I lived not far away, and I constantly doubted myself as a hairdresser, and that really added to the stress, because I kept pushing myself and saying, I will get better at this, I will, and nothing, you can't you can achieve by just practice. You can learn anything just through practicing, and that's what I would tell myself. But really, I became quite, and all those factors together, with my marriage, the work that I was doing, and stuff, just was a downhill spiral, to what happened with the breast lump.
Okay, now you've talked about the various factors, which are spiritual, physical, emotional, and environmental, all that you've kind of integrated. How, if you were to give my listeners any advice moving forward, if they're in a similar position, what would you say to them in regards to how to move themselves forward?
Well, I think, I mean, one factor that's going to always affect everyone, unless you happen to be a typical Guildford person and have stacks of money, which is the finances. It's expensive. It's not totally free to do some things, but there are things you can do which are not hugely expensive. So the environmental thing is there are ways of finding out about how to reduce the amount of impact all your products on your body have in your home type of thing. You don't have to use bleach. Bleach is incredibly destructive in the home, and just sticking it down the toilet and environmentally. So, I mean, those are small things, but we all need small things to start us off. Health-wise, you can buy a huge bag of magnesium and start putting magnesium all over your body, because magnesium is incredibly important for the body. We can't absorb that much orally. So was one of the treatments that I did, which I got from my nutritionist, was to stand around naked and just, find a book and just put this magnesium oil on your body. And that, although it may seem very small, it's really effective. Another very important thing to support your liver is having castor oil, a pack, they call it a castor oil pack. You might need to investigate a bit further with a naturopath to find out how to do that, but and I'm not sure if it's something you can Google. I've never Googled it. It could well be on Google, but it's castor oil packing with organic castor oil. So there are those are a few very small, easy things. I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but I think so. If you haven't got the finance, there are ways of doing things. Vitamin C is incredibly important, and not totally beyond most people's price, but certainly not to use Holland and Barrett or very cheap quality. It's very, very important to use the best quality. If you're going to do it, you have to do it the best quality. There's no point otherwise. And then if you've got the money for that, I think if people are more wealthy and they want, they'll have to look at clinics and different places. There's lots of alternative clinics, but you draw those things into your life. I must have just drawn a lot of those things into my life because of the person I am, and happened to have found things and magnetising them towards me really at the right moment. I was very fortunate. I actually got my breast lump removed in Germany on the NHS. So, that was a very wasn't that difficult, in fact, to get it organised to make it happen.
I think throughout this, what I've heard from yourself is that one of the key things, or a few key things, have been, one, the resonance and the energy that you have continuously put through, and you still have, I can see that. And it obviously affects your mindset and the positivity that you've had and the total focus that you've had towards yourself. I just want to say it's been a fabulous interview, and I'm really appreciative that you've come and spoken to me and my audience today. And would you like to? So, Joannie, it's been a fabulous interview. Thank you very much for coming today.
All right, let's meet you. Bye bye.